Khayelihle Khumalo is in the field and in the studio and joins me now. Lovely to have you, Kaya. It was an interesting day, I suppose, but the most important thing, of course, is the purpose for his visit here. What is in it for the South Africans? And I think specifically, how significant is Antony Blinken's visit for us as a country?
So, Iman, is quite comprehensive because, for example, he's going to launch the US Sub-Saharan strategy, and this is quite important for the Americans. They can see that the Chinese have made inroads in the continent, the Russians as well, in spite of the sanctions. They're also making their presence known. And it's quite important because, I mean, South Africa, despite all the challenges that we do face, it's still a gateway to the continent, especially from the southern part of the continent. This is the second time he's coming to the continent. Previously went to West Africa, mainly to Nigeria and many other countries. But also just apart from that, I think this is America saying we're here. We know that under Trump administration, the relations are quite strained as much as we're still working on technology, education, people-to-people contact, and many other aspects. So now it's just reaffirming that we're willing to work together.
And speaking about foreign policy issues, of course, there's the thorny issue of the Ukraine that stands between the US and South Africa, because Pretoria and DC are not on the same page in terms of support or opposition to Russia in the matter.
That's right, man, because, you know, you do have the American diplomats have really nailed their colors to the mast. They say this is unjustified aggression. Russia was not supposed to go to Ukraine and invade its neighbor. And South Africa says, well, we're non-aligned. We don't want to say much. This is our BRICS partner. You know, Russia is working with us. But also we're still saying, well, we still want to work with the US. So we've seen these divisions at the UN General Assembly. And I suppose it's going to be a very main issue, Iman, especially because there is a bill before the US Congress where some African countries who are working with Russia may face some punitive measures. In fact, when I spoke to the Minister of International Relations, Dr. Panda, she said it's one of the areas where she will try to get clarity and say, what about us? We're sovereign states. Why are you trying to do this to us? But it's going to be really interesting, Iman, because, you know, oftentimes US relations with South Africa, you know, when you speak to analysts, they say it's complex, it's long, it's vital, but very important given the very many other areas. You look at AGOA in terms of the preferential trade agreement and many other areas where they do work together.
I mean, it's a tough one, you know, in terms of running with the hares and hunting with the hounds for countries who have enjoyed Russia's support in the past, now having to make this decision, especially when there's so much at stake and so much on the table. So it wasn't only focused on economic ties and those bilateral issues, it was also around the issue of social justice. What did he have to say about that?
That's right, Iman, because, you know, when you went into the Hector Peterson Museum in Soweto, you could really see that it was a very evocative moment for him with his delegation, as we're just going through the site and having all the vivid memories, you know, just well laid out. So you could really tell that it was a very profoundly moving moment for him. But apart from that, as he walked out, he spoke about how these two countries can learn from each other. The US on its own facing its own racial inequalities, so many other challenges in terms of the racial inequities and many other things, saying that, look, we can work together as South Africa and the US, because as much as it is this democracy, it's still facing a myriad of challenges. So
after this, what? He's also visiting other countries on the continent?
Well, that's right, Iman. So he's going to go to the Democratic Republic of Congo. We do know with the rise of M23, it's been very tough in the Great Lakes. So he's going to reinforce that commitment in terms of security. We do know that the US, they do have quite a number of military bases in the continent. Oftentimes, it's always a source of contention, given, of course, you know, whenever there's a security arrangement, others will always ask questions. But apart from that, he's also going to go to Rwanda, again, talking about a number of issues, looking at food insecurity, the impact of climate change in the continent, because that's also a very big issue in the continent.
Oh, to be a fly on the wall when he meets Dr. Pando tomorrow. Let's see what comes out of that meeting. Khayelihle, thank you very much for updating us. Appreciate you on the program. Khayelihle Khumalo is our reporter. He was there during Antony Blinken's, the US Secretary of State's walkabout in Soweto.